All right, you may be familiar with this label. It's extremely popular, but there is a fascinating backstory behind it. Goats de Rome. Does it sound like a familiar French region? I'm sure that's just coincidence. But our guest on the Sunday Sipper Club tonight has wonderful stories to tell about this, but also about what's happening with South African wine. Some interesting developments, things that are actually going to surprise you. So welcome everybody. I'm Natalie McLean, editor of Canada's largest wine review site at nataliemclean.com, and we gather here every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern to talk to the most interesting people in the world of wine. Now I'm going to refresh and make sure that you all can see and hear me on Facebook. I always like to make sure that we are broadcasting live. So if you're oh, there we are. We're good to go. All right. So if you are just tuning in, please, in the comments below or wherever, let me know where you are, what's in your glass, and where you're tuning in from. I always like to see the diversity of people. It never ceases to astound me where people are from, what's going on in their part of the world. From weather to wine. So I'm just setting us up here, and I will then get to the intro for our guest. Okay, you're going to love our guest tonight. Two housekeeping things. If you want to take your wine knowledge to the next level, please join me on an online free video class, How to Taste Wine Like the Pros. It's a lot of fun. And I am sure that you are going to enjoy our conversation tonight. So why not take a moment right now to share this video, and even better, tell people why you're sharing it, why they should join us. As you know, I always draw at the end of the conversation for a winner. So we'll be drawing for last week's winner when we interviewed Aileen McCoy about Robert Parker, and a copy of her book. That will be the winner. This week's winner, including if you're watching the replay, you can still share this video. It will be a couple of bottles from our guest's winery. So let me take you to our guest's introduction now. So our guest this evening produces some of South Africa's most coveted premium wines under the labels of Fairview Estate, a third-generation family-owned farm located on the slopes of Parel Mountain in the winelands of the Western Cape of South Africa, with a winemaking heritage that dates back to 1693. He also founded one of the most successful Black empowerment labels, Fair Valley. However, you may be more familiar with his more playful line of wines, Goats de Rome and the Goat Father, among others, a brand which went on to become the highest-selling South American wine brand in the United States following its introduction in 2000. He is known as one of the great entrepreneurs and innovators in the wine world. In 2017, he became one of the most awarded winemakers in South Africa, honored with prestigious titles such as the 1659 Wine Industry Medal of Honor, 2017, and the South African Wine Farmer of the Year. And he joins me now live from his winery in Parel, South Africa. Welcome to the Sunday Sipper Club. Charles Back, hello.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you all.
Oh, it's so great to have you. You feel like you're next door, Charles. Like the reception is great. I love this connection that we're getting, like on opposite sides of the planet here tonight.
The only difference is it's this past midnight in South Africa at the moment, and we're still having fun.
Yeah, that's great. You are a sport to be up this late. Thank you so much. I appreciate this, as
pleasure.
do we. All right, so I'm going to check in with all the folks who've come pouring in our virtual wine bar here, and there are lots of them. Linda Alexander says, yes, we hear ya. James Norton is from Florida saying, hi, y'all. Gilman McCatch, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, but hello. Paul and Patty from Virginia, Linda White, Alexander. Ellen McClugan has joined. Anne McLean's here from Halifax. Elaine Bruce, all great from Calgary. Jen Havers is here from Ottawa. Laura Slay is from St. Louis, Missouri. Thomas Schoen from Toledo, Ohio, drinking a red wine. And let's see, you're in Suffolk. Okay, Francis is here. Hello, Dave Head is here. Alan Cameron. He's drinking Shadow Pepsi. Lori Kilmartin is here, and Allison Fader is here. It's 10 degrees in Kelowna, BC. Holy smokes. Okay. And Linda Alexander says she loves South African wine. So there we are. That's just for starters. We've got a great group here, and more people will pile in as we go along here, Charles. So you have got so many interesting stories, but I think the label people know best, perhaps, is your Goats de Rome. There's Goats de Rome, white and red. There's Goat Father. Now, Goats de Rome and Goat Rôti, is it coincidence that they just happen to sound like a French wine region we know?
That's absolute coincidence. It started at Fairview. We have a goat tower where the highest producing goats of the week have a free weekend in the goat tower. It's a spiral staircase that runs up. And one day my mischievous son opened the gate of the goat tower and the goats ran into the vineyard. And it's the most dangerous thing to have goats marauding through vineyards because you can imagine the devastation they can cause. But our goats were quite specific about what they wanted, and we watched them going through the vineyards, and they had some Shiraz, and they missed out the Merlot. Then they went to Carignan and missed out the Cabernet, and then they went to Cinsault. And we picked up a pattern as they went along, and they were very specific. And I watched this, and I got to the winemaker, and I said, just do me a favor, send the laboratory technician out with a clipboard and let her take notes of what the goats are eating and roughly how much they're consuming. And then we brought the goat blend back to the laboratory and compiled and constructed the blend according to their specific taste. It was amazing wine, and we came up with this wine, and we didn't know what to call it. And we thought, well, the goats are roaming through the vineyard, let's call it Goats de Rome. And we couldn't understand all the complications that followed after that.
So it's very scientific. You were recording what the goats ate, the percentage of different grapes from traditional Rhone Valley grapes, but that's coincidental as well. And that made up the blend. That's how you decided how to blend this wine.
Exactly right. And then what happened, it wasn't my doing. Somebody slipped in a bottle of Goats de Rome, I think it was Goat Rôti or Goats de Rome, in a lineup in the English wine magazine, the tasting of Rhone wines.
Oh.
And unfortunately, I think it was Goat Rôti, came out very close to the top. I think it was, and it beat a number of very, very serious Rhone producers, and that started the whole furore, and people were very upset about that. Understandably so. If I was a Rhone producer, I would have done the same. And that's when we ran into trouble with Goats de Rome.
Well, it seems like, not to make a pun, but yes, I will, you like to butt heads with French authorities because they decided to try to sue you for copy or trademark infringement. What happened then?
It was a catastrophe as far as I was concerned, because at that stage we just got Goats de Rome into America, and it was the first South African wine to find a foothold in America, and it started growing quite rapidly. And then we had this whole trademark infringement case going on. And we actually made history in South Africa. It was the first protest march, I think, in our political past, where a landowner, a white vineyard owner, and all the workers teamed up together, and we had a protest march to the French embassy in Cape Town. And it caught attention of a lot of international press. In fact, CNN covered it. And it went global. In fact, I have something here. We all dressed up in these masks. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, the goat mask. Yeah.
Yes, we put it on our heads, and we all went up, and we went to
the French embassy. Yes.
Yes, the French embassy.
How on earth did CNN hear about this? I wonder. Was it just coincidence?
One of our goats whispered in their ear. I don't know how they got to.
That's great.
And then, when farmers have a altercation in France, what they normally do, they drive into Paris with big truckloads of manure and dump it on the Champs-Élysées. And so I thought, being African, we're going to be a bit more sophisticated than that. And I vacuum packed some goat droppings to take to the ambassador, because they've got beautiful gardens, and I thought they could be fertilized with some perfect goat droppings. And I presented to him with a beautiful brie that we make at Fairview, and obviously a magnum of Goats de Rome. And it all ended in a good spirit, and they stopped pursuing the trademark infringement, and today I own the trademark Goats de Rome.
That is fabulous. And so did the publicity help at all with all this controversy?
I think that's the reason why they stopped. I, I wish they carried on because
Yeah.
I subsequently registered goat roti, which is a roasted goat. So you had, and then we also had Bordeaux. A doe is a female goat, so she's very bored because she's only permitted to grow 5 varieties of grape, which is terrible. So we had Bordeaux, and then we went into Italian blend called the Goat Father,
Yes, I have
and
that
no,
one here.
exactly. There's a resemblance apparently between myself and that goat.
That
So we
is
all have
great.
we had a lot of fun doing it. I must be honest.
Absolutely. Well, whatever I can do to stir up the controversy again because it generated so much great publicity, we'll try to do that tonight for you.
Okay.
That is fabulous. I just love those stories. And so, what the Goat Tower? Do you have a bearded elder there? Is there one
Yes.
primary goat in residence, if you will?
We every now and then we have to select a special goat that lives in the goat tower, and the criteria they must have massive horns, and he must have an imposing beard, and he mustn't be afraid of public and public speaking. So when you come to Fairview, you would find the special goat, and every now and then, obviously, as time moves on, goats move on as well, like we all do. And the challenge is to find a replacement as time moves on. So he's been there, goat has been there since all the 40 years that the tower has existed, yes.
Well, I know when I was there and I asked your chief goat herder, "Oh, what's the name of this goat?" He said, "We don't name them. They go on to greener pastures."
Well,
Sounds like
it's Billy, we're now on Billy number 17, so that's where we are.
okay. Okay, great. Awesome. And so, how much of your goat wine do you export? The goat brand, if you will.
Um, I've been trying desperately to shed the goat over time because because that's a humorous end of our winemaking and where we have a lot of fun. Having said that, the most of our work is at the serious end, and every time I think I want to slaughter this goat, and it pops up in a different part of the world, and it ran in the States, it's running in Canada at the moment, and it's doing well in. I think in Norway it's the number one selling South African wine at the moment, and it does well in Japan and it does well in Russia. So we find it popping up all over the show. While it's doing that, we put the best product in the bottle we possibly can, because if you're using so much humor, you have to counterpoint it with real quality. Otherwise, it's not going to stick around as long as it has.
Absolutely. And I've heard, no matter what's on the label, whether it's a bit of a play on words, the first sale perhaps is based on the label. The second sale is based on the product that's in there. And I must say, the value for the price point and value and quality of taste of these wines is superb. I mean, no
Yeah.
wonder. And I think, yeah, they're the number one brand of South African wine since their launch here. I mean, it's so memorable, but it's really decent quality for the price
Yeah.
points, which are
No,
really,
with that, when you do something as playful as that, you have to really work much harder on the quality of the product.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're
yeah.
dead in the water. And we just produced a new one. I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, hold it right up to the camera
Is
there.
that is
Yes.
that
Is that
okay?
a
This is a I think a 3 liter bag in the box. It's what I redesigned a bag in the box. It looks like a Gucci bag. Okay.
Gochi bag
A,
or sorry?
Gucci bag, even with a gold clasp on the back.
That's great.
So,
So
and
to
that
get the wine out of it, do you sort of milk it or do you
no,
squeeze
no,
it?
no, no.
No.
It's free flowing. You don't have to go there. I've done all the hard work for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's got a tap on it, and this is the best way of enjoying goats to roam in Africa for sure.
Do you know if that's available in other countries or
No,
is it something?
it's something that we just do domestically,
Okay,
and we spent a lot of time in designing this bag, and I think we would like to get it into other parts of the world quite soon.
that'd be great. Very fashionable. I'm getting
Yeah.
so many little emojis and feedback here. Let me go over to the comments because they've been flowing in. Let me back up here. Okay. Let's see now. Lori Kilmartin says hello. And Laura Slay says, Chenin Blanc is in my glass. Paul Hollander, good evening, Charles. My wife and I enjoyed Goats to Rome several times. Jamal Uden it's a cloudy day in Toronto, anxious to get some wine tips from sunny South Africa. Lori Sweet loved the story of the goats and the witty label. Lori Kilmartin says sometimes negative publicity isn't so negative. Natalia Velikova says looking forward to the Academy of Wine Business Research Conference in Stellenbosch in January 2019. Alan Cameron loved the photo of the actual goat tower on Charles' farm, as well as yes, Charles made me milk a goat. Les Kovac is here from Brampton. Great value. Yes, I remember when I visited you, Charles. You called your chief goat herder. You called him. I don't. Maybe he has another title. And you told him I wanted the full farm experience, and then you made me milk goats.
I did.
Yes,
well, you did. Opportunity for cheap labor. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you sent me off with him, and then when I came back, you asked me, what was that smell? It was like I had tracked in the barnyard smell, I think. But it was so much fun. It was so much fun. All right. Neil Phillips says, hello, Charles. Apologies, I'm late. Had to clean up. Okay. All right. So we are going to go to, let me just come down here because the, let's see. Oh, yes. I did have an idea for you, though, Charles, on a new label, a new goat label. How about what? Now, maybe you've already come up with this, but how about Get Your Goat? Like with a label featuring French wine legislators sort of strategically placed over ram's horns, something like that. A Get Your Goat. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
Good. Sounds good.
So were these labels at all sort of designed with the critter craze in mind back when that was happening, from penguins to kangaroos?
I think it was the beginning of the critter craze. We had no idea that we wanted to do a critter craze label. If you look at our goat, it's very stylized. It doesn't look like a furry, fuzzy little animal. It's got a lot of sort of status and presence, and it's quite aggressive on the packaging. So it's not a furry, fuzzy, soft sort of animal feel about it. It's got status, and it wasn't intended to be a critter label. It was really intended to be a serious label for a serious wine.
Interesting. That's fascinating. Okay. And do you think, like, I absolutely love your sense of humor, but do you think there's ever any danger of not being taken seriously as a winemaker and wines? Do you think that's ever a risk?
Yeah, a big risk. It put a lot of pressure on us as a company, having something as frivolous as that, and at the same time making handcrafted wines on the other end. There has been tension in the brand for sure. So the goats have been fabulous for us to create awareness for South Africa as a wine producing country, but at the same time it's been a challenge for us to manage the success of goats whilst trying to build the top end of our portfolio.
Right. So before we move off all things critter, now in North America the predators tend to be deer or starlings who love to eat those grapes around harvest time, which is right now for us. You have a unique predator though over there. What is that?
We've got lots of predators there. So it starts with the lions, and you can go all the way elephants.
Oh, wow.
if you really want trouble. No, in the Cape, unfortunately, the only real challenge we have in our vineyard are very small indigenous antelope, which love the fresh shoots of newly planted vineyards. So that's a challenge. Other than that, we don't have a lot of problems with that. We have an indigenous wild guinea fowl that roams the vineyards as well, and that actually helps us eat up all the things that could be dangerous for vineyards, all the dangerous, harmful insects. So the critters are against us, but we've got a lot of critters that work with us. Okay.
How about those marauding bands of baboons?
That's a bigger problem, but fortunately where we farm in the mountain slopes where we are, well, unfortunately there aren't any more baboons. I would love to have them around, but they were shot out here, it was probably 100 years ago. There are some farms in more remote areas where baboons cause havoc. Okay, for sure they do.
Yeah. Okay. So you also make cheese. So why do you make cheese? Why didn't you just stick to wine? Why are you also making cheese?
The main reason for that, I also have to make a living, and it's very difficult to make. It's very difficult to make a living out of producing wine. It feeds my passion. Wine is my passion. But many, many years ago, my late father went and my mother went to a trip to the Rhone Valley, and they, for the first time, experienced artisanal cheese, goat's milk cheese, and came back with this idea, which I thought was absolutely ludicrous. And my dad started by importing a little herd of Swiss milk goats. And as soon as we started making cheese, I got a hospital pass, and I was handed the cheese portfolio as well. So I made wine, first cheese in the morning from 4 till 6, and then from 6 on I used to do wine. And that's how the cheese business started. And today we South Africa's largest producer of specialty cheese.
Wow, how much cheese do you produce?
I do about 250 tons of cheese a month, in the good months, and normally from 200 to 250 tons. And it's all artisanal produced cheeses, Camembert, Brie, and a whole range of blues. But it's a very nice industry to be in alongside wine, because if you take cheese from a technological point of view, it's about a decade ahead of wine. But if you take wine, it's about a decade ahead of cheese in the sense of marketing and brand development. So there's a nice synergy between the two products, and we can use them together as they play off each other in the marketing perspective as well.
All right. And how many goats do you have in the herd?
At the moment, not enough, because goat milk only makes up about 0.5% of our total production. Most of it is Jersey cows, which I think you have in Canada as well, with a high butter, fat, and protein. We have about 500 goats. I'm hoping to step it up to 2,000 goats in milk in the next couple of years.
There's going to be a lot of competition for that tower.
Yes, for sure. I might have to add a floor or two.
With a little goat elevator.
Yes, for the lazy ones.
So it must be different though, like making wine, sort of, it comes around once a year. You make all the important decisions, you get one chance. But making cheese, that's got to be a bit more like do, correct, move on. Like it's a shorter timeline, right?
Yeah. Just to come back to wine. Wine really is not made in the cellar. Wine's made in the vineyard. So we would spend the entire year grooming the vineyards in sync with the type of product we would require from the vineyard. But harvest is just the end of the road as far as winemaking is concerned. Cheese making, every day, tomorrow morning, within a couple of hours, our trucks would roll in with all the milk, and it's a more exact science. And it's more following a specific recipe and sticking to that without deviation. Where winemaking, you got a bit more scope for movement, and you can be more innovative, and you can try things, and you can always blend them away or fix up, or this wine can add some value to another blend. Whereas cheese making, you make a mistake, you've made a mistake, and that's the end of the road.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, folks, if you are enjoying this conversation, please take a moment right now to share it, and also comment as to why you're sharing it with your friends, family. As you know, I always draw for a winner based on who has been sharing and commenting. At the end of the session, we'll draw for last week's winner a copy of Aileen McCoy's book. Next week, we'll be drawing for a couple of bottles from Charles Winery. And if you want to take your wine knowledge to the next level, join me in a free online wine video class at nataliemclean.com/pro. So Charles, one of the cheeses that I tasted there that was a favorite, I don't know if you have it in front of you, was I think you called it a Parmesan, like, and it was a play on Parmesan. It was so cute. And then I turned around the back of the package, and there was this goat nibbling its way across the barcode, eating it down like grass.
Okay.
Don't know if you still have that one, but
if there was a little subtle twist to that grass. There's one of my opposition companies in South Africa have a logo similar to a flower, and that flower was in amongst that grass, and the goat was on the way to hoover that as well. So it was a little. Unfortunately, don't have that product with me at the moment, but I got something here which I don't know if you can see it if I hold it up like that.
Yes, I can see that. Yes, lovely. What's the swirl there?
And that's, I think it's chili and caramel swirl in the middle of a goat's milk cheese. On the back, now that marijuana has been legalized, we roll it in marijuana, and then we have the chili. Now I'm pulling your leg, not true.
Okay.
It's coriander.
I'm such a gullible journalist. Anyway, go
It's
on.
it's coriander on the outside, okay, and then a swirl of chili and caramel on the inside. So we're doing a whole host of these type of cheeses at the moment, and then we also reinvented cheddar. I don't know if you can see this one over here.
Yes. Yeah.
And bobotie is an indigenous South African flavor that they add to food, and we infused the cheddar with that. And then I'll show you something else while we're about it. But this is a brie. Can you see the packaging over there?
Yes. Yes.
We just launched it in a very traditional style. We got two ranges of brie. One we call ripe and ready, and this is the traditional one that we all know in all over the world, the same style. Okay.
Awesome. And Linda Alexander is asking, do you export your cheeses?
Unfortunately, we do not have enough cheese at the moment to cope with the domestic market, and the logistics of exporting cheese is very difficult. However, we do export on the odd occasion to enter international competitions, and I have exported to America at Wisconsin. I came second in the blue cheese category.
That's something.
And then I exported to London for the World Cheese Awards. We were very fortunate. For 3 years in a row, we won the best Camembert Brie in the world. So
wow.
Great.
Wow, you are just knocking it over all around. Okay, awesome. Let me go back to the comments and let's see. Jamal says, I am told a component of fish is in the wine. I'm not sure what that one is, but
I can answer that one.
Oh, okay, please, yes.
You know, if you find the wine or stabilize wine, French used to use in Bordeaux, egg white, which is a protein, and then you got fish protein, isinglass.
Right.
It's called, and they use that, but we don't do that at all. We don't use any finding agent, completely natural.
Okay, yes. I was thinking he was talking about the cheese. I'm thinking there's fish in cheese, but it's in the wine. Fish bladder, isinglass.
Very fishy cheese, if that's the case. I must say.
Yeah, a little bit of a sardine. Let's see. Alison Fader was there 15 years ago. Excellent wines. She's hoping there will be more events here. Melanie Aubert says, oh my goodness, that goat cheese looks delicious. Jane Staples has joined us. And let's see, Paul Hollander, over dinner last night, we were enjoying Pinotage, South African wine. Neil Phillips also has really enjoys the Fairview Pinotage. Wish we could get more of that in Ontario. Would love to try the Cinsault. All right, guys, that's fantastic. Lots of hearts and emotions, lots of emotions flowing here, or emojis. I don't know. I guess they tie to emotions, but in this modern day. So let's turn to your more serious wines, but also a more serious subject now, Charles. And that's in the late, just for as a little summary for those who are watching, in the late 1980s. 23 countries, including Canada, the US, and the UK, imposed economic sanctions on South Africa to protest apartheid, which literally means separateness, the racial segregation of blacks and whites. What impact do you think apartheid had on the wine industry?
I think it was a devastating impact. I think South African wine, particularly South African brandy, was the #1 selling brandy in your country. So immediately that was cut. And I completely agreed with the sanctions imposed upon South Africa. It did help force and facilitate change, much needed change. So it had a catastrophic economical impact on the wine industry, and it stagnated most probably for the period that sanctions were imposed in South Africa.
Wow. Okay, and so with the wine industry, I mean, the specific impacts, I can only imagine that your winemakers weren't getting experience around the world. Technology was probably stifled, investment. Even I read somewhere where Chardonnay, like vine stock, you couldn't even test new vine stock. Chardonnay was illegal in the country. So then, summarizing very quickly, in 1990, President Frederick de Klerk began negotiations to end apartheid and freed Nelson Mandela, who had spent 27 years in prison. It was like they say it was like the knocking down of the Berlin Wall. So what happened for the wine industry after apartheid?
Well, just to come back to the apartheid era, there was only one good thing that ever came out during that period, was that winemakers were forced to deal with a very limited market. So you only had the domestic market, and there was fierce competition to find you a little bit of sunshine in the domestic market, and it forced us to be very innovative. And because you had to please you had to optimize every opportunity you had. So we competed fiercely with each other, and that was the birth of the South African wine tourism industry. And everybody developed cellar doors. Every opportunity you could sell wine, you had to make the best of it. And that's why South Africa today most probably is the most evolved, the developed cellar door experience in the wine world because of that. So that was the only benefit. But post-apartheid, the floodgates opened, and for a very short period of time, we were the flavor of the month globally. And I do remember the day when Mandela was released. It was a very emotional day for all of us. And the national road from to Cape Town runs through the bottom part of Fairview. And I remember going right down to the bottom part of the farm and standing up against the fence and watching the cavalcade go past, because he was incarcerated first in Robben Island and then in a local prison quite near us. In fact, a couple of kilometers from where I'm sitting now. And I saw the cavalcade past the N1 on the national road, and I saw the whole cavalcade on the way to Cape. And I realized with that, my life, South Africa's life, and my life had changed. It was an amazing opportunity that we had. Yeah.
That is fabulous. What a great story.
Yeah.
And the other thing about apartheid, if anything, did it also kind of force South African winemakers to develop their own style, not to go with that sort of homogenous international style that was happening in the 90s, with Chile and California and so on. You didn't have access to that market, so you had to hunker down and develop your own styles of wine too.
I think our styles of wine were out of sync with what the international market required. I think we weren't. In fact, I think I was one of the first ones to get in the fruit-forward style of the whole bunch in South Africa, because I realized we had to. But South Africa has got a very unique position in the global wine business. We're not as upfront as the new world would be, like, let's say, Chile or California, Australia to a similar degree. And we're not as restrained and focused as the old world would be. We naturally gravitated somewhere in the middle, and that's where our natural style lies. So yes, we did develop it at home, but I think we weren't completely in touch. Our wines were a little bit astringent, a bit tannic, and the tannins were very dry, and the mid palate was a little bit patchy. So that was our challenge we had with our wines when we re-entered the international market.
Wow. So today, how many wineries are owned by Blacks in South Africa? Do you have any notion of what the percentage is?
First of all, it's, Black ownership is a priority in our country, and it normally to evolve from a white-dominated society and business society to one that reflects our diversity. The ones that do the best first are the things that generate the most cash. So you would find banking, commerce, mining. The Black empowerment process has far progressed a lot further there than in agriculture. Agriculture is one of the most difficult ones to do, because I've been here for 3 generations. We're still struggling. So it's going to be very difficult to transform agriculture. There are Black-owned farms. I do not know how many there are, and I think there need to be more. But it's like the people buying wine farms in South Africa today are people that made a lot of money in some other industry, and they're buying a farm to lose their fortune. And I don't think that's what empowerment or changing our economic reality for the majority of South Africans is going to be about, unfortunately.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I've read that less than 1% are Black owned, but that there are initiatives, but including the projects that you're doing. Tell us about Fair Valley, because that goes right to the heart of this issue.
Yep. Just to come back to that, when I started farming, which is now 40 years ago, after about a decade of farming, I realized that our society on farms are very paternalistic. We always think what's good for other people around us. And I thought that's not the way to move forward. So I got a research institute in. And at that stage, I only had 57 workers working with me. Today, I've got 600. And we started with 57 workers in a completely independent interview with each one of them to establish what their requirements might be moving forward. And they're the 5 same things that all of us require. First, a good salary. secondly, a good home, third, good education for the children, good medical, and a good pension. So exactly the same requirements that everybody has, farm workers have those. So I addressed those issues. Land ownership didn't come up. I think there's one person that said he wouldn't mind farming. So I didn't focus on the farming aspect. I focused on those 5 other aspects. Having said that, when the opportunity arose just after Mandela was released, and I could acquire black people or people of color could acquire land, we were the first people to do that. And we bought a piece of adjacent land and started the Fair Valley Farm Workers Association with the sole intent of people owning their own homes over time. And it's a process that we're still busy with.
Wow. And so how many people are involved in that? Has it turned?
There are 57 members, okay. And to date, we've been able to house only 9 of them there because there have been constraints for rezoning has been a problem, so we hit a lot of red tape there as well. But on my other properties where it was easy to find adjacent townships or places where the subdivisions have already been taken place, it has been relatively easy. At my Spicewood winery, which is about 40 minutes away from Paarl, in a little town called Malmesbury, all the farm workers own their own houses. Now, the challenge on a farm in South Africa, if you have a house on a farm, it remains a house. But if you have your own house on your own piece of land, you can turn it into a home. And that has liberated the people unbelievably. And my whole drive moving forward the next couple of years, that everybody that works with me should have their own home.
Wow. And, of course, when it's one employee, that represents a whole family who's probably,
Six dependents at least.
Yes, exactly, who are thriving based on that one job. That's pretty amazing.
And our other challenge in South Africa is that our unemployment is close to 30%. So other than other New World wine countries, making wine in South Africa has an extra dimension to it. You can use your success in wine or success in your brand. You can use that to make a profound impact on a whole lot of other people's lives around you, which you don't enjoy in other parts of New World wine countries.
Huh. And how many cases approximately does Fair Valley produce now?
I think that goes between 12 and 18,000 cases a year, depending on the demand around the world. It's a very difficult. It's a very difficult concept, and you do not want to sell the wine on the basis that it's an empowerment project. You must sell the wine on the value that the wine presents at the price point.
Right, because we also see fair trade on labels. And so is that just, in your mind, a bonus product first?
I think fair trade is a very important accreditation. All my products are fair trade produced. We don't always put the accreditation on the label depending on the market. But if a consumer buys a fair trade bottle of wine, they can be rest assured it's a very stringent and a very tough accreditation to attain, and it's very well managed. And if you buy a bottle of fair trade wine, you'll know that everyone in the value chain that's been properly looked after, and there's nothing that is undesirable.
So it's about worker rights and
it's workers' rights, environmental factors, a whole host of hurdles you have to get over. And then on top of there's a joint body, and a certain percentage of the income from that wine falls into the joint body, which is managed by farm workers, and they can do projects with that, social upliftment, education, buying kids' uniforms, and they can use it to their own discretion, and the farmer has no input in that whatsoever.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm going to go to comments here. Alison Fader says she is so impressed that Charles has supported the boycotting of South African wines due to apartheid, even though it was against his economic interests. Yes. Sam Hawk in BC, I hear a lot about the quality of South African wines. I'd love to travel there one day. Jason Davies and Lewis Gilbert have joined. Lori Sweet, I'm working on a visit to South Africa to visit some wineries. Looking forward to it. Allison wants to form a group with Lori and go together. You guys should go to Charles' Winery. Terry V. Pond has joined, and Elaine wants to join the group as well. So we're getting a group together to go see you soon, Charles.
I'd love to have you all. Amazing.
That's fantastic. I love when everybody connects online.
I need some goat milkers, so you're all welcome to go.
More free labor.
Free.
You're very strategic here. Okay, so let's talk about your Fairview estate. So I've got the wines to taste here, and we've skipped over. I want to taste them all, but tell me about Fairview Estate, because this is your premium wine, if I understand it correctly.
Well, it's my home base, my family farm. The farm was first settled by European settlers in 1693. But one must be very careful. That's not the first time people lived at Fairview. The Khoisan, the indigenous tribe of people, collectively called Bushmen, went through this area, and they were hunter-gatherers. So there were no formal settlements, but there were indigenous people in the area. But the first Europeans settled in 1693. The first wine was made in 1699, which is quite a long time, which makes South Africa the oldest New World wine producing country, or the newest Old World producing country. My late grandfather was a Lithuanian immigrant, and he bought the farm in 1937. My father took over, and I've been here for 40 years. So that's the history of Fairview in a nutshell.
Wow. I think you've summed this up before. It just sounds like...
Well, if you do something for 40 years, you can't work it out, then there's something wrong.
That's great. But that's quite a history.
I should go milk goats.
Well, maybe you can bring in a goat for the next interview or something. Yes, but
it'll do better than I do, I promise you.
You are doing just fine. This is great. But seriously, I like the way you put it, the newest Old World country or the oldest New World country. I love that sort of mix, that blend, because of the history. Yeah. With South African wine, we'll get to specific tasting very soon. I think it might surprise people that, I believe, maybe my stats are out of date, but 3/4 or something like that is still white wine. We think of South African as a red wine production country, but is it mostly white still?
I think it swings 60-40. I think not as high as that. I think the last 25 years there's been more red planted than white. But traditionally, with our climate, a much warmer climate, Mediterranean climate, I think white wine was the preferred drink up until about 20 years ago. I think today it's sort of most probably 60-40 red and white.
And do you think that's the future for South Africa, that that as a country you should be focused on the red wines?
South Africa is a very interesting country when it comes to viticultural resources. It's a very complex. You've been here. There are a lot of towering mountain ranges, a lot of small valleys, two big oceans, major oceans meeting, and a lot of different elevations. So you've got a whole palette as a winemaker to produce a whole range of wine. And that's our challenge. You won't, unlike parts of Chile or Argentina, Australia, where you've got vast tracts of homogeneous soil producing fantastic Chardonnay from the bottom to the top, or Merlot from the bottom to the top. We've got a lot of complexities in our topography and our terroir, and which makes us a very difficult country to understand, even for us, believe me. So you've got a whole host of different styles coming from this country.
I'm fascinated personally with Chenin Blanc, which is also called Steen. Why is that so iconic in South Africa? What is it about it? I'm so drawn to that wine from South Africa.
I think in South Africa, under conditions, the adaptability of the variety, you can get beautiful Chenin Blancs grown in cool climate areas with a lovely edge of minerality to it, and then you get them very tropical up front with like guava flavors. And then the new young winemakers have really taken it to the next level, where they've let skin ferment and they put it in oak and they leave it soli, and you get this complex wine. So I think it's a real workhorse of the industry and produces a whole wide range of fantastic wines at the moment.
Awesome. So not that this talk has been dry by any means, but I keep putting this off, but I don't want to run out of time. I want to taste the wines that I have here. So let's start with the Côtes du Rhône, the white, and this is a blend, I would assume, of traditional Rhône varieties. Maybe you could describe that one.
I think it's a very modern rendition of a Rhône white, technically well made, I would assume. And it's a Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, and Viognier blend. And we use the Grenache Blanc to give the acidity and the backbone, freshness. The Viognier to have the nice tropical notes on the nose. Beautiful. And the Roussanne to give a beautiful mid-palate and flesh it out in complexity. Okay.
That is lovely. It's so floral,
it's lovely.
But not over the top. It's just...
No, we try and restrain our style. It's so easy in South Africa to make very blousy, big, bold wines and homogenize the whole style. And we try and get personality and texture into each one that we do. It's so nice. It's so nice having this at 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh, it's great.
Thank you so much. You're such a sport. It's 1 a.m. your time. Yes. Okay. Let's just keep going.
But I have to milk goats in a couple of hours.
In a couple of hours. My goodness. What a grueling schedule. This is lovely. Absolutely lovely. So floral and so delicate, yet just nicely balanced. Good acidity. Great for seafood. Yeah. So nice. Okay, so let us do the other goat wines here that I've been holding up. This Goats de Rhone.
Yeah, I've got this one, so it's the same. Okay.
your Goatchi bag.
I'm gonna have my Goatchi bag.
That's great. And the blend or the percentage of grapes changes each year, I'm sure. But
it's depending on the vintage, but it's Rhone inspired, goat inspired, actually, not Rhone inspired. Sorry.
Goat inspired, right? Yes.
And the last couple of years, we planted quite a lot of Grenache, which is doing exceptionally well under Cape conditions. So we're lifting the percentage of Grenache as the vintages go on to introduce a bit more lightness, freshness, and a bit more softer fruit on the palate. And we reduced over the years the influence of oak on it, which is we prefer this style. Okay.
I love it. I mean, really, for this price point, it's amazing.
Well, it must be amazing because I lose money on it. So.
Now there's a tagline. It's great wine because we lose money on every bottle. Excellent. It's gorgeous. It's like rich, fleshy plums. No heavy oak. Good, vibrant acidity. Wets your palate. Juicy.
Okay.
Very good. All right, the Goat Father. I love this. So are we on to Italian varieties?
Italian varieties.
A wild guess, yes.
Yeah. Our goats were under such stress with the French assault that they had to call on a distant cousin from Sicily, and he was the goat father, and he protects the herd at the moment.
Oh, nice. And does this pair well with a smoldering Sicilian bride?
That would do exactly that. And it's a blend of Sangiovese, I think Cab Merlot, if I stand corrected.
Yeah. Very nice. Very zesty on the nose. Lots of dark fruit. Smells like pasta to me. A pairing. Very easy drinking again. Full body, but very sort of supple, smooth. Nice blend.
We've spent a lot of time in the vineyard to flesh out the mid palate of our wine and make sure we have tannins that are powdery. So that's been the focus, and I think. And we also have, funny enough, in our winemaking team, we're 7 people in the team, half of which are ladies, women. And I think the influence of the ladies of the last couple of years are evident in our wine. They're far more refined and delicate and more interesting, I would like to believe.
Okay. We're getting lots of comments too here from Dave Head. He's drinking South African. Neil Phillips says he loves your Steen. Wow, some good comments here. I'm not keeping up. All right, so those are the 3 goat wines that I have. Though I wish I had Bordeaux. She's in front of that's that deer in front of it, like a Bordeaux-looking chateau or turret.
No, it's actually, yes. It could look. There are a lot of Bordeaux labels that copied that one. That's where you find the similarity.
I love that. Anyway, okay. So I've got some. Oh no, I have a Chenin Blanc from Fairview.
Yep.
So this is this old vines? Yes.
Yeah. And that is right from where I'm sitting, just across the road. It's fruit from Paarl, and Chenin Blanc is ideally suited to Paarl. That's quite a rich style. We got 2 Chenin Blancs, one from a cooler region, and this is a more full-bodied, more fatter style, richer style.
Does Chenin Blanc go through a dumb stage, like where it's I
Like
don't know?
the stage I'm in for the last 40
No,
years.
I'm not implying anything. You're so sensitive. You're like Pinot Noir as a grape.
No, Chenin Blanc is, look, it depends what style. If you make a style like this, the rich, fuller style, it does benefit from bottle aging, but I wouldn't keep it in the bottle for too long. 3, 4 years, I think
Oh,
it's where it should be.
okay.
Okay.
So not benefiting from a lot of aging. This is
No,
lovely.
not that. Yeah, upfront fruit and 2 years in the bottle. I think 2 to 3 years is that where you should be, yeah, on
All
that
right.
style. Okay.
Very zesty, very vibrant.
Yeah.
Lemongrass. What do you think is a great pairing for Chenin Blanc? Your Chenin
I'd
Blanc.
say the cheese I just showed you now, I think that will work perfectly with some nice ciabatta and cheese on the cheese board. Perfect.
Very nice. Very, very nice. All right. Should we do the Primo Pinotage or the Grenache next?
How brave are you? I think let's go big. Are we going to do them both?
Yes,
Or
we're going to do them both. Yes.
then I think start with the Grenache.
All right. This is very sleek. I was nipping into it earlier and it's beautiful. So let me
Let me see
come
that.
back to this Grenache.
Oh,
So
yeah, here we
you
are.
were saying you're trying to fill out the mid palate with more Grenache. What does Grenache do for a wine? Is it a fat, succulent wine or what?
I call it the poor man's Pinot Noir.
Ah,
And
okay.
okay, so
Yeah.
there's got similar characteristics as Pinot Noir. It's also the poor winemaker's Pinot Noir because it's so adapted to warm growing conditions, and you get fantastic soft fruit, plush fruit on it, and a nice texture and smooth, silky finish to it. I really love this variety to introduce fruit to blends and soften blends at the same time, and
Yeah.
it's nice on its own.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Just again, fleshy, ripe plums. So good. And yet mouth-watering.
Yep.
Ah, my goodness. Um, wow. So I'm going to keep motoring only because of the time. I can't believe
Yeah.
how fast this has gone because I still want to taste your Pinotage. Pinotage is a cross between Pinot Noir and Cinsault.
And correct. And in
Okay.
South Africa, Cinsault used to be called Hermitage, and that's where the name came from, Pinot and Hermitage.
Ah, gotcha. Yes. And so, why is this such an iconic wine or grape for South Africa, the Pinotage?
Hey, there's a label. You got the label in front of
Yeah,
you? Yeah,
I do.
that's my pickup, and on the front label, that's my registration number of my vehicle. And the reason why we got a lot of people ask me why have I got my pickup on the front label. The reason why I've got it, this Pinotage is my best Pinotage, and to find those blocks, you really need that 4x4 to get to where we find these grapes. So we go all over the winelands to find the best Pinotage to put into this product.
Lovely.
Pinotage is ideally suited to South African conditions, and the challenge with Pinotage in right in the beginning when we started exporting wines to the rest of the world was the tannin profile wasn't right. It was like rusty nails and very tannic. But the winemakers got to grips with it, and we got new planting material. And today, the generation of Pinotages out there, coupled with the winemakers, the younger winemakers, the wines are fabulous. And it could be as good as any great Burgundy and has the potential to age. It's sort of a cross between Burgundy and the Rhone in a kind of strange way.
This is early and nasty Pinotages that I've
Yep.
had a reputation for smelling like rubber. Why was that?
I think the vineyards, the old Pinotage vineyards, were virus infected,
Ah,
and they were the last to be replanted, and the new ones are all virus free. And winemakers now to express the fruit today.
it's beautiful. There's not a hint of that. It's a very
Mm.
elegant wine. It's leans toward full body, but it's very elegant. Like you say, with a cross between Pinot Noir and Rhone. I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Awesome. So let me just check in with comments because we are going to wrap up here because of the time factor. Guys, I appreciate you sticking with us, and we have had a steady group of people here tonight. Really great attendance. I love it. If you're watching the replay, you can still comment, and that will, we'll still get back to you and all that because I know a lot of you catch us on the replay. So, again, I haven't got to the other 56 questions I was going to ask you, Charles, but is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention now?
I don't. I just think the most important thing is that South Africa is an amazing country,
Mm.
got amazing human resources, got fabulous people, and the diversity of people and the diversity of wines and the diversity of opportunities we have here is mind-boggling. And if I had my life over, I'm so pleased my grandfather made the voyage to this part of the world, and I'm very pleased to have made a very small contribution to my country, and I hope to do more of that in the future. And I'd love all of you to come visit our country. We've got so much to offer, and we've got so many things that we can share with you. I would love to share with you.
Beautiful. It is a gorgeous country to visit, and yours is especially a lovely winery to visit. I love the tasting rooms, from the spittoons that are actually milking pails to every single touch. You've thought about it all. It's a wonderful place to visit. Thank you, Charles. I so appreciate you spending your time with us tonight. Well, it's actually Monday for you, but so I've got to let you go so that you get a little bit of sleep before you have to get up and milk those goats.
It was great drinking wine this time of the day. You started a new trend.
Well, okay, good. Oh, I really appreciate you joining
My
us on
pleasure.
this sort of time zone. So please stay with us, folks. I'm not done, but Charles, thank you again, and we're all looking forward to trying more of your wines as they come out and in our local liquor stores. Great stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you
Okay.
listening.
All
Bye.
right. Take care. Bye bye. All right, folks. Wasn't that fantastic? Absolutely great. So, now, as always, I'm going to announce the winner from last week's competition. Let me just go over to the comments and see what you're doing. See what you're saying, I should say. Charles, you are so interesting. Really enjoyed this chat. Yes, absolutely. So we are drawing tonight for a copy of Aileen McCoy's book, The Rise of Robert Parker, An American Taste. And it was all about critics and scores last week. And that winner, shall I go to the noisemaker provided by Alan Cameron? Oh, I got it right this time. Woohoo! Ba-boom! Okay, so the winner is Carolyn Wolfe from Halifax. Carolyn, you're our winner this week. So guys, there's a few things I want to tell you before we wrap up finally tonight. Next weekend, I'm in Chicago with my partner Miles, and I thought it would be more stress-free if I don't try to figure out what the hotel Wi-Fi is and do this. But we'll be back November 11th. That's just the next weekend after that with Mary Ewing Mulligan. She's the first woman to earn the Master of Wine in the U.S. If you remember, we tried with her. There were technical difficulties. Oh, fascinating woman. She's written the original quintessential Wine for Dummies books. So she'll be back, and we're rocking on that. I'm also launching a wine and cheese course. I'm going to go live probably Thursday night to talk about that. So I would love your input on my new wine and cheese pairing course, online video, interactive, real time. Stay tuned. And finally, I just finished recording the audiobook version of Red, White, and Drunk All Over, my first book. So that I submitted to Amazon tonight, along with Audible and iTunes. So I cannot wait for that to come out, and I will let you know when that's live. So Jason Davies, thumbs up. Kathy Braid, terrific interview. First time tuning in, I'll be back. Yay, I love to hear that. Yay. How did you find me, Kathy? Us, I should say. Our community. I love this. I love the connection. Francis just added South Africa to my bucket list. Absolutely. Patty, very enjoyable. Linda, he was fabulous. He was, wasn't he? And Neil, cheers. Guys, I love these stories. Allison, great interview. Love Charles' sense of humor. He's so down to earth and knowledgeable. Must pay him a visit. Yes, you all can organize your own little tour visit. I'll connect you with Charles for anybody going and other South African wineries that I know. Just email me. Happy to do that. Joanna Cortell, looking forward to the 11th. Good. Mary Ewing Mulligan. I know you emailed me about that or posted about that, Joanna. You wanted to see her rescheduled. Great discussion, says Lori. Sweet. We'll be off the grid in Ecuador. Oh, have fun, Lori. You're a world traveler. But then again, you're a travel blogger, so that makes sense. So, guys, I wish you well. As always, I have so much fun with these. Highlight of my week. I love it. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll say goodbye for now, and I will see you back here on November 11th. You can always watch all the previous episodes on the website. We'll put the link down below. So we'll keep you company till we meet again. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.